You believe that the provisions of the prenuptial agreement are fair, just, reasonable, and equitable.
Yes.
You are signing the prenuptial agreement freely and voluntarily without coercion or other undue influence by wife or any third party.
Yes.
There have been no threats of bodily or other harm or other actions against you amounting to coercion, compelling you to act against your free will to sign the prenuptial agreement.
No.
Todd, do you have any questions?
No.
And that's when everything changed. Because this week, something surfaced that sent shockwaves straight through Kandi Burruss's world, and fans are realizing this divorce was never just about growing apart. It was about secrets that stayed hidden for far too long. According to multiple reports, Kandi now believes Todd Tucker was allegedly communicating with other women before the divorce was filed. We're not talking about random conversations. We're talking private messages, late-night calls, and connections that were never supposed to be discovered. What was once dismissed as not that scandalous has now exploded into a full-blown legal and emotional crisis. And now the internet is asking the same question. If this reaches the courtroom, what exactly is Todd trying to outrun? Then came the move nobody expected. Kandi reportedly begged a judge to seal every divorce document, not for drama, but for damage control. Every leak threatened to hurt her children. Every filing felt like a ticking countdown. And insiders say she knew one thing. If these files go public, the story could be rewritten by someone else. But Todd didn't stay quiet. He pushed back hard. And Kandi didn't respond with words. She responded with footage. Real Housewives footage. And when the tapes played in court, the entire narrative collapsed in seconds. Because the most dangerous lie is the one already on camera.
There have been things that have come out just this week that, Kandi believes that Todd was talking to other women behind her back before filing for divorce. I think what they meant is they're trying to move forward in a way that's not as scandalous as people would think, because it's definitely becoming scandalous to the point where Kandi is actually now like requesting and almost begging a judge to seal their divorce docs because everything is kind of spilling over.
The silence didn't come from nowhere. It came after years of pressure hiding behind red carpets, after smiles that stopped reaching the eyes, after whispers that got heavier every time the cameras stopped rolling. By the time the court filings finally surfaced, this marriage had already ended somewhere much quieter. Not with a fight, with a realization. According to multiple insiders, Kandi Burruss didn't wake up one morning and decide to file for divorce. She woke up knowing she could no longer pretend she didn't see it. Messages she didn't recognize. Names that didn't belong. Timing that never made sense. Sources close to Kandi allege that Todd Tucker may have been in quiet contact with other women before the legal split. There is no confirmed infidelity record in court filings, but the emotional breach? According to insiders, that line was already crossed. Not physically, but psychologically. And that kind of distance doesn't show up in photos. It shows up in behavior, in withdrawal, in energy shifts, in decisions that start happening alone. And that's when the divorce morphed into something far more dangerous. A legal war. Because when paperwork enters the relationship, love leaves the building. According to court sources, Kandi didn't treat this divorce like a breakup. She treated it like a containment mission. Every filing was strategic. Every motion had intention. Every line was written like it assumed someone was trying to control the story. And that suspicion didn't arrive by accident. Because Todd had already made his move.
About their prenup, Todd had claimed that the final agreement for signature was given to him like right before the wedding ceremony without any notice or consultation to his team. Kandi is fighting back against this, and she's using clips from Real Housewives. They did a wedding special.
The message was loud and simple. Todd Tucker was no longer fighting a divorce. He was fighting the contract. Because the moment he claimed he was rushed into signing, the marriage stopped being a love story. It became a negotiation battle. Insiders say Todd's position was clear. He didn't feel informed. He didn't feel protected. And he didn't feel the timeline was fair. According to his side, the prenuptial agreement was allegedly delivered with too little time and too much pressure. The implication? He signed something he wasn't equipped to fight. And this, right here, is where everything changed. Because Kandi Burruss didn't respond with emotion. She responded with evidence. Not messages. Not statements. But recordings. Footage. Time-stamped moments that were never meant to be used as courtroom weapons. But now, they were. Sources confirm Kandi entered Real Housewives wedding clips into court filings to contest Todd's narrative. Not as television moments. As proof. She didn't say he had time. She showed he had time. And suddenly the story Todd was selling collapsed into a timeline he could no longer control. Because footage doesn't adjust itself. It doesn't forget. It doesn't pick sides. It plays. And when it did, Everything Todd claimed started working against him. He said he was rushed. The footage suggested prepared. He said he wasn't advised. The footage suggested aware. He said he had no window. The footage suggested weeks. And then came the clip. The moment the courtroom stopped listening to talking points and started watching reality.
I decided to sign a prenup against my lawyer's advice. In the end, I know all this legal stuff is not going to...
Sufficient amount of time and opportunity to full free will to sign the prenuptial agreement.
No.
Todd, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. You just ready to get this over with?
Yes.
I decided to sign the prenup against my lawyer's advice, but I knew legal stuff wasn't going to keep me from being with Kandi. You acknowledge you had enough time and opportunity to review the agreement? Todd, yes. You're signing freely, voluntarily, without coercion? Todd, yes. Courtrooms don't respond to storytelling. They respond to contradictions. And in those 12 seconds, Todd's entire defense folded inward. Because the camera didn't capture a confused groom. It captured a man who spoke with certainty, who answered clearly, who waived rights without hesitation, who acknowledged opportunity, who admitted awareness. And once again, not in theory, on film. So when Todd later alleged he had been pressured, the court didn't hear it as trauma. They heard it as revision. And that is a dangerous place to stand when the past is still recording in HD. Insiders say the mood in the courtroom shifted. Not emotionally. Legally. Judges don't follow heartbreak. They follow evidence. And video does not lie under oath. Which is why sources now say Todd's attempt to revisit the prenup may have backfired harder than expected. Because every argument he raised activated footage that contradicted him. And quietly, the upper hand shifted. Not back to love, but toward leverage. But the prenup battle? That was only half the war. Because while Todd was challenging contracts, Kandi was sealing silence. According to court filings, she requested divorce records to be sealed. Not because she wanted privacy, but because she wanted control of narrative. Sources close to the case claim Kandi feared selective leaking, misinterpretation, manipulated timelines. And she wasn't wrong. Because once fans learned court documents existed, the pressure accelerated. And insiders say Kandi made the call. Lock down the files. Freeze the flow. Prevent distortion. Because what's behind those pages doesn't just rewrite the marriage. It rewrites memory. And if those pages ever surface unfiltered, the aftermath wouldn't be personal. It would be permanent. Because marriages end quietly. But reputations do not. And this one was already bleeding into the headlines. What started as a divorce was now light years past reconciliation. It was control. It was exposure. It was strategy. And perhaps most devastating of all, it wasn't over. Because documents can be sealed. Video cannot be erased. And when footage speaks louder than defense, there's only one place the story can go. Darker. By the time the divorce papers hit the public eye, the marriage had already been living on borrowed time. Not dramatic time. Not screaming time. Quiet time. The kind where conversations stop mid-sentence. Texts go unanswered by accident. And two people sleep in the same house, but not the same world. Because according to sources close to the situation, the problem wasn't just private. It was invisible. And that makes it worse. Insiders say that long before court documents appeared, something inside the relationship had begun to evaporate. Not in one moment, but slowly, subtly, in the way only emotional distance can. At first, the space looked professional. Kandi's career accelerated. Todd's identity blurred behind it. One became a name you heard everywhere, and the other became the man remembered for standing next to it. And that is where imbalance begins. Not violently, psychologically. According to people who claim familiarity with their inner circle, Todd had started to feel like he was slipping further from the center of his own life. That his role inside the marriage was shrinking while the spotlight grew hotter, elsewhere. And when a person feels unseen, they eventually look away. Not always toward another person. Sometimes toward escape. Which is where the rumors began. Not from one blog. Not from a single headline. From silence. From changed patterns. From unusual timing. Sources close to Kandi allege that she began noticing subtle changes. Message notifications that never appeared on shared screens. Late nights explained as work. Names that didn't make sense. Not proof of an affair, but the feeling of something not adding up. And sometimes that's enough to fracture trust completely. Because once suspicion enters a marriage, everything else becomes a question mark. Advocacy becomes distance. Ambition becomes abandonment. Autonomy becomes threat. According to whispers within the industry, Todd wasn't looking to betray Kandi. He was looking for relevance, for breathing room, for a version of himself that wasn't defined by proximity. And that's where misunderstandings turn dangerous. Because in relationships shaped by fame, time is expensive, attention is rare, and identity becomes currency. Sources say Kandi wanted presence, consistency, availability. Todd, on the other hand, allegedly wanted independence. Friends outside the fame. Projects without her name attached. A space that felt like his. And when those two desires collide, no one cheats. But everyone emotionally disappears. According to insiders, unresolved tension began spilling into public spaces. Arguments that were once private found their way into production rooms and work schedules. Privacy cracked, then shattered. Emotionally, the house became a workspace. Romantically, the marriage vanished behind legal terms. And spiritually, something ended without saying goodbye. Then came the rumor storm. Not one, not two. A network of speculation. Stories of alleged communications. Rumors of emotional connections outside the marriage. Conversations nobody could verify, but everyone discussed. No physical evidence. But public energy doesn't require proof. Only repetition. And then things escalated. Whispers became blind items. Blind items became full headlines. And suddenly, the internet wasn't asking if something happened. It was asking who knew first. And why it took so long to say anything. Meanwhile, Kandi stayed silent. Which might have been the loudest move of all. Because silence doesn't always equal peace. Sometimes, it equals planning. Sources say Kandi realized something critical. If she spoke emotionally, she'd look reactive. If she stayed quiet, she'd look strategic. So she chose neither. She chose action. The court filing, the sealed documents, and the refusal to argue in public. Which angered people even more. Because the internet doesn't want resolution. It wants collapse. Inside circles say Kandi's closest allies watched her withdraw emotionally not just from Todd, but from the entire exposure of the marriage. No defenses. No statements. No, we wish each other the best. Just distance. And distance always has consequences. Privacy looks suspicious. Legal restraint looks calculated. Strength gets mistaken for lack of feeling. But sometimes, it's the sign of exhaustion. According to insiders, Kandi wasn't sad. She was empty. And emptiness doesn't cry. It detaches. But while Kandi withdrew, Todd fought. Not emotionally. Legally. According to filings, his approach became more assertive. Sharper. Less restrained. Documents began flying. Counters began appearing. And insiders say Kandi read it all as one thing. Control. Not legal strategy. Narrative strategy. Someone trying to define the ending first. Which is why the sealed motion mattered. Not legally. Symbolically. It was Kandi saying, you don't get to finish the story. And around that moment, the public fracture deepened. Fans split. Some sympathized with Todd. Others stood firmly with Kandi. And then came the rumor wave about open arrangements. Alleged understandings. Private agreements that were never meant to be public. According to online speculation, not court documentation, their relationship may not have followed a traditional script. But no paperwork ever confirmed that. No statement ever verified that. Which meant speculation metastasized. And once again, Kandi said nothing. And then came the detail nobody was ready for. Not proof. Not footage. But contrast. Fans began resurfacing old clips from years ago. Moments where Todd seemed uncomfortable being overshadowed. Where jokes weren't jokes. Where smiles faded too quickly. Where body language spoke louder than words. And people realized something. The cracks weren't new. They were just invisible. And when cameras don't catch something, it lives twice as long. Because if this marriage was ending because of betrayal, it wasn't betrayal of the body. It was betrayal of presence. Of attention. Of warmth. Of being there when someone needed more than applause. And emotional absence is the kind that leaves no receipts. Only damage. Which is why this story doesn't feel like Hollywood. It feels human. Two people growing in separate directions. Not wrong. Not evil. Just incompatible. And fame amplifies incompatibility. It doesn't resolve it. By the time the infidelity rumors went viral, the relationship had already been over for months. Emotionally, spiritually, and identity-wise. All that remained was paper. And paperwork doesn't care how you feel. It only cares what you signed. But according to insiders, the worst part for Kandi wasn't the rumors. It was the realization that she didn't recognize the man she married. Not because he changed. Because she stopped knowing where she fit inside his world. And if you don't have a place, you leave. Not loudly. Legally. Because closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes, it's a court stamp. And that's where this story is now heading. Not toward reconciliation. Not toward reunion. But toward fallout. Because when emotional distance meets paperwork, nobody wins. And when fame fractures marriage, there is no privacy left to bury the wreckage. Only headlines. And the next chapter won't be about love. It will be about survival. By the time the world started asking who did what, the real question was already behind them. Why did it take so long to break? Because the truth is, this marriage didn't fall apart in court. It collapsed in private. And everything that came after was cleanup. By the time legal documents became public, insiders say the emotional ending had already happened quietly. No yelling, no exploding headlines inside the home. Just the kind of silence that locks itself into the walls. According to people close to the situation, the final months weren't dramatic, they were hollow. Detached routines, separate energy, parallel lives under one roof. And that's the scariest phase of any relationship. Not when people argue, when they stop caring if they're heard. Sources say Todd and Kandi stopped behaving like partners long before the separation went legal. Their marriage looked intact from the outside, but emotionally it had already been archived. What remained wasn't unity, it was obligation. Then came the papers. And once paperwork enters a marriage, love never comes back out. According to filings, both sides began locking into position immediately. Legal language replaced emotional communication. Lawyers took over where intimacy failed. That's when fans noticed something unsettling. This didn't look like a breakup. It looked like a strategy. Sources say Todd's filings felt aggressive, not emotionally, legally. The timeline escalated quickly. Requests sharpened. Language stiffened. And Kandi? She did the opposite. She went silent and went sealed. According to court insiders, the motion to seal her divorce documents shocked more than just fans. It shifted the entire battlefield. Because sealing is not about drama. It's about containment. When someone requests gag orders and sealed files, one message is being sent. This information could change everything. And that terrified people. Blogs started whispering. Comment sections got loud. Theories multiplied. Because when a celebrity refuses to tell a story, the internet writes one for them. And this one? It spread like fire. Not fueled by proof. Fueled by contrast. Fans began noticing something else, the emotional difference between the two. Todd was speaking. Kandi wasn't. Todd was reacting. Kandi was restraining. And restraint always confuses people. Because silence looks guilty to the loud. But restraint is often grief with posture. Sources say Kandi didn't want the battle to become entertainment. She wanted it over. Clean. Contained. Controlled. Because when children are involved, noise becomes damage. Insiders claim Kandi's legal requests weren't about image. They were about stability. About preventing children from watching their parents disintegrate in real time. But Todd? Insiders allege he believed his story wasn't being heard. That he felt overshadowed. Misrepresented. Boxed into a narrative he didn't recognize. And that pain always demands a microphone. Which is where the tension mutated. When one person fights quietly, and the other fights outwardly, the public automatically sides with the sound. But that doesn't make the noise right. It just makes it heard. Then came the second wave. Not from law. From rumor. Stories of emotional involvement began surfacing from corners nobody could trace. Supposed conversations. Alleged messages. Whispers of connections that nobody could verify, but everyone repeated. None confirmed. None proven. But emotionally powerful. Which is worse sometimes than fact. Because when people want to believe a story, they don't wait for evidence. They wait for permission. And on social media, permission is called virality. Fans picked apart timelines. Screenshots were dissected. Old footage resurfaced. Every interaction from years past suddenly looked suspicious. Innocent pauses were re-edit into meaning. Smiles became strategy. Silence became guilt. And suddenly the marriage wasn't just failing. It was being diagnosed by millions. And here's where it got darker. The custody conversation. According to filings, Todd began challenging arrangements. Details remain sealed, but insiders say this wasn't handled delicately. It was handled legally, which hurt more. Because when parents battle through paperwork, children feel it in silence. No screaming needed. Just schedule changes. Just absences. Just tension that enters the room before anyone speaks. Sources say Kandi's inner circle worried less about public scandal and more about trauma. Because custody isn't about time. It's about presence. And presence can't be measured by court orders. It's measured by safety and emotional stillness. And love that doesn't arrive through attorneys. Meanwhile, Todd reportedly felt erased. Forgotten. Reduced to a footnote in someone else's narrative. Which is devastating. Because no one enters marriage expecting to become irrelevant. And life inside fame doesn't kill your identity instantly. It suffocates it. Over years. Slowly. Quietly. Until one day, you don't recognize the man staring back. And according to those close to Todd, that breakdown happened long before the divorce. He just didn't have a word for it yet. And when men don't have language for pain, they find chaos instead. Not maliciously. Desperately. Kandi, on the other hand, according to people familiar with her mindset, wasn't searching for chaos. She was searching for closure. Not emotionally. Legally. Because emotional endings had already been spent, long before the breakup became visible. And that is the tragedy nobody wants to accept. There is no villain here, just two people realizing too late they didn't belong in the same future. Fans searched for one bad guy, but this story doesn't have one. It has erosion. It has unmet needs. It has egos developing in different directions. It has pressure. It has fame. It has years of family interference. It has exhaustion. It has resentment that never screamed, but sat quietly between meals. And the scariest part? Nobody noticed. Until it was already over. By the time documents leaked, there was nothing left to save. Only identity to preserve. Only dignity to protect. Only children to shelter. Sources say Kandi isn't fighting to punish. She's fighting to protect. And Todd appears to be fighting for truth as he experiences it. And those two narratives rarely converge. Which is why this case won't end loudly. It will end clinically. Cold. Signed. Stamped. And emotionally unresolved. Because there is no settlement for grief. There is only life after disappointment. And for now, they're both standing in it. Not as husband and wife, but as two people navigating the wreckage of a dream that didn't survive success. And this is what no one tells you. Sometimes love doesn't lose. It outgrows. And outgrowing someone hurts more than betrayal. Because nobody meant to hurt. Which makes it worse. The court case will end. The rumors will fade. Headlines will age. But the damage? It will live quietly behind closed doors. Inside homes. Inside schedules. Inside children who once thought love lasted forever. And this is the final truth. There is no reunion coming. No shocking confession. No dramatic reversal. Just two adults, learning how to exist without each other. And sometimes, that's the most devastating ending of all. And now, the noise fades. The filings will end. The headlines will disappear. The internet will find a new fire tomorrow. But this story won't end in court. It will live quietly where no camera can go. Inside memories that don't fade. Inside rooms that still feel unfamiliar. Inside children who don't understand how love vanished so fast. What we witnessed wasn't just a celebrity divorce. It was the slow exposure of what happens when fame outgrows family, when silence becomes strategy, and when love loses its voice. The public may never learn everything. Some documents will stay sealed. Some truths will remain untold. Some scars will never be counted. But one thing is already certain. Nothing goes back to normal after this. Not trust. Not legacy. Not identity. And maybe that's the hardest truth to accept, that not every story ends with justice. Some end with acceptance. So now the question isn't just, who is right? Who is wrong? Who lied? Who didn't? The real question is, what happens when the world watches your heart break and then moves on? Because while we scroll away, their reality doesn't. And if you've been watching closely, you already know, this wasn't about just one moment. This was about years no one saw. Years that finally spoke. If you believe there's more hiding behind the silence, if you think the sealed pages still matter, if you feel this story isn't finished yet, then stay. Because the truth doesn't vanish. It waits. And this one isn't done speaking yet.